podcast.
What's up, guys? Thanks for joining the podcast. Like I said before, if you're just following the story, if you've been following it for some time, make sure you hit that subscribe button. You'll get notified every single time we upload a video. And obviously, we got some new guests today that were actually on the water. But right before we start, please introduce yourselves and tell everybody a little bit of background of each of y'all.
Todd Laurie, been around here since '86, captain since '90. Running out of Jim's Pier. When we left that night, we left out of Jim's Pier on my smaller boat. Still fishing today. Got the Real Madness charter business. And just wanted to let some people know what happened.
Daryl Steers, grew up down here from the valley, but grew up here on the summers. Licensed at 18, captain. For the past 27 years, I've been been a captain of the D&B, then became an owner 12 years ago. Also working out at Jim's Pier.
Let me ask you this. Obviously, y'all are locals. So how is this story being circulated around here? What are people's thoughts about this?
It's been 20 years, but I think nowadays it's not talked about as much as when it first happened. When it first happened, there was a lot of shock and awe in trying to figure out what we're going to do and get things together before there was a ferry service, a car ferry, anything else. It was basically just trying to figure out how we're going to get by.
Yeah.
Or are you saying as far as what went down that night?
No, I mean, like, as far as, like, right now, this story's circulating around Port Isabel and South Padre Island. What are the locals saying about what we're doing?
Well, I saw it because it popped up on Facebook, and when I saw JR's account, I had no idea that he was there. He apparently kept that quiet, and that's what drew my interest. Is I saw some things that he was saying, and I didn't see things actually going the way that he was saying by the time that I got there. So that's why I got interested. I don't know exactly what everybody else's opinion is.
What about you?
The same here. I haven't heard too much buzz about it, other than if you listen to the podcast, they're talking about it now, about the Queen Isabella. But other than that, not much.
Okay.
Not much.
So take us back to that night. I know we had chatted, both of us, all of us actually, had chatted at some different points about what happened that night, what you saw. So take us back to that night on September 15th, and what did you see? What did you witness?
Well, it started with, I was in bed, and one of the local real estate agents, Jess Alford, came in my house and actually pulled me by the leg and pulled me out of bed and said, they knocked out the bridge. And I was like, they did what? And so we went to go get in my boat, and I called Daryl, told him to meet us at the pier. And Jess went up and got Danny Ghislaine, the owner of Jim's Pier, out of bed. So we all jumped on my boat. And as we went there, we just ran across the bay here, so it wasn't that rough or anything, leaving out of Jim's Pier and going to the actual causeways where it may have gotten rough or anything. But I think the first thing that really hit me when we saw it was that barge into the bridge and so much destruction. And there was no smoke, there was no fire, where you would think if there's this much destruction, a bomb must have gone off or something must have happened, but it's just pitch black dark.
Wow.
It's dark except for the spotlight off
There was
of the barge.
no moon night. It was as dark as it gets, and there was no lights on the causeway, no lights underneath the causeway,
And
nothing.
you start thinking, God, these cars had no chance. These cars driving had no chance whatsoever. Like I said, there's no smoke, there's no warning, and it just must have just blackness the whole way. So that basically, when we're coming around, it's just like, God, this is just insane.
What time was that you showed up?
Pretty much after, right around 2:30. It wasn't long after it happened, and I don't know exactly when it happened, but I felt like it was pretty quick that we got out there. There was already lights closing the bridge off, and from what I understand, the guys that hit the bridge were the first to call the Coast Guard and tell them to stop traffic on the bridge because they had knocked the bridge out. So they got the local enforcement to close the bridge off, which to me, when they were talking about it's a terrorist attack,
Yeah.
that wasn't really hitting home with me because these guys called. They were the first ones to call and say, we hit the bridge, there's cars going off, you need to close the bridge. So when they were talking about all that first responding and thinking it's a terrorist attack, it wasn't really hitting home. I didn't know why they would think that, other than we were probably on a higher level from 9/11.
Yeah, I think everybody was thinking, is like, why would they attack the island? I mean, it just didn't make any sense.
Do they want a beach resort? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So tell us your what you saw that night.
I just remember going out at night, just how dark it was, and coming up on, not knowing what we're going to come up on. And then when you got there, you couldn't believe what you're seeing. As you got closer, you could start to make it out. The tugboat has spotlights pointed up the top with the opening of the bridge, and that's the only light that we had up there. And I remember I was getting up there, shut down, looking around, and I remember looking out on my right, and I see a red truck with its tailgate and its brake lights.
Wow.
I can see it down there.
There was one on the apron, and there was one with lights shining up.
Yeah, there's one that hit the apron, slid down, and just crushed on the bottom. And then, but back to the red tailgate one. Not knowing who it was at the time, we found out who it was later, and it turned out to be the Port Isabel fire chief, which was working security here at Louis.
Wow.
He was the head of security.
So when we pulled over to the barge, we were pretty much welcomed. I felt there was already some sheriffs and constables and stuff on the boat. Said we're here to help. So we may have run some people back and forth to the dock, the dolphin docks, but they said tie up and be on standby. There was no animosity or anything else going on. It was, we're here to help, and they didn't really seem to mind.
So you didn't get any of that. What everybody's been talking about is like the chaos. That these guys were like blood hungry about just trying to blame it on somebody. You all didn't get any of that.
We didn't even see those guys.
No.
This was more like sheriffs, constables, different, mostly Coast Guard. There was some Coast Guard there. And we saw French, the MSO, show up, and we actually talked to him. And I think Danny jumped on the barge with him at one point and talked with him about what was going on, but no, we didn't see that.
And French is the harbor captain, right?
He's the
Marine safety officer for the Coast Guard. He's the highest you can go is in a Coast Guard there. For instance, he does all the inspections, accident investigations, things like that.
Okay, so he's like the head guy.
Yeah, we all knew him because Ronnie inspected boats and Danny owned the pier, so we all actually knew him.
Wow. Yeah, it's just that this story has so much depth, and I keep saying that, but it really does, because seeing it from y'all's perspective, talking about this, it kind of, because the one thing that everybody keeps saying is that we're painting a bad picture of the Coast Guard and all the entities that were there that night.
Right.
And that obviously is just saying that during that time, that's what happened from their perspective, right?
It must have been right before we got there, and the first on the scene responders, there was the panic of the 9/11 thing going on.
Take us back to that night where the elements, how was the weather that day, the water?
So I'd like to talk about that. There was a tropical depression that left the Yucatan that night and was cutting across the Gulf towards Florida. So that storm was one of those storms that we were getting the swell off it. It started on Monday, I believe, Monday or Tuesday, and was slowly working its way up towards Florida. So we were getting the swell, the surge, and that was the reason we had so much water and incoming tide that night. It was all extremely high off of that storm. So that storm slowly worked its way and went in as a Class 1 hurricane Sunday morning into Florida. And I just want to say that a lot of people probably don't realize it, but switch that scenario a little bit, which at that time of the year could have happened just as easily. That storm starts coming through Cuba, the Florida Straits on Monday, Tuesday. It's a slow storm that's only 50, 60 miles an hour, a rainmaker. People aren't really blowing it off, not paying any attention. Friday night, the bridge gets knocked out. Saturday is panic attack. What are we going to do with this bridge? Sunday morning is a Class 1 hurricane.
Jeez.
It could have went that way just as easily.
Yeah.
It went the other direction, but I'm just saying, that time of the year, it could have easily come that way. It could have been a whole lot worse.
That's interesting because, I mean, had that happened, then probably that barge would have never gone through there, or they still have to go those routes even in extreme weather.
Like I say, it was a slow storm until Saturday. It might have started picking up. So maybe, let's just say it was a couple days later.
Okay.
Even, let's just say the bridge went down Friday and it didn't come in until Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday. You're still going to have an island full of people.
It wasn't a rainmaker or anything like that. What I think he's trying to say is the tide. It made the tides abnormally stronger on the incomings and outgoings. But it was a hard flood tide. I mean, it was a river of tide that night.
Wow.
It was,
right, and that was going away from us. I'm just saying, if it would have took the other path and coming at us, and that bridge went out, it would have been really bad.
Let me tell you guys this, because I just learned this. Shout out to Celeste. She's like a ninja looking through all the law documents, because I'm not that type of person. But she found the actual statements where at the accident happened at 203, bridge collapsed. Bridgewater Towing put their first legal documents to the courts at 3:45 that same day, saying that we're only worth $250,000. This is not our fault. You're not going to get anything from us. Knowing that there had already been people that passed away. What do you all think about that?
When we first got there and tied up to the boat, we could see directly into the galley, and the captain who hit the boat was just down in water by the gallons. I mean, he was chain smoking and gallons of water. And we're all thinking he's got to take a piss test. He's worried. And then sure enough, the MSO showed up with it.
Wow.
And
so they had the drug test with them.
I assume that's what it was. I don't know what else it would be.
yeah, something like that. Yeah, they had a drug
It
test.
wasn't a briefcase. It was a big box.
Yeah. Jeez. That's interesting because there's so much that happened on the water that night, and you all vividly remember seeing that stuff. So there was another story that you shared with us where you actually talked to the guy on the barge.
So as the night went on, I think I ran Danny and Jess back and dropped them off. Then me and Daryl came out and we did whatever they asked us to do, and I had to take him back. So I ended up going back out and being the last person tied up to the actual barge. And as I was waiting, I was supposed to wait on a Coast Guard guy. I don't know if it was French or who it was. The last Coast Guard guy. And the long-haired captain, I think he was the main captain, but he wasn't the one driving. He's up on the bridge and he says, "You don't need to stay any longer, everybody's gone." And I said, "No, I need to wait for that last Coast Guard." And he says, "No, he took off on a boat on the other side of the boat, but if you want, you can come upstairs and get some coffee." And I didn't even drink coffee, but I wanted to go up in the barge. I wanted to go up there and check it out. So as I was going up the stairs, being on boats and stuff, I fully expected seeing a radar, a bottom machine, whatever, typical stuff. The first thing I noticed when I walked in, right in the center of the dash and the steering area, there's a TV set, and it's on and it's live. And a helicopter had just shown up and was showing the span where the bridge was broken, and it was a live feed on that TV set. So we're looking at the TV set and the helicopter flying around. And the helicopter comes and it goes straight over the tugboat, and I stuck my arm out and I'm watching my arm on TV as it flies over.
Wow.
And my boat's down below. And at that moment, the deckhand runs in the cabin and he says, "We made TV. I'm gonna get laid off of this shit for years."
Wow.
And I kind of looked at him. I couldn't believe he said it. And the helicopter loops over to the old causeway and they start filming the old causeway. And that long-haired captain goes, "Oh, these people are going to be fine. They got another causeway." That's when I lost it. Every F-bomb, this and that. And see that half a bridge over there? That's what they're showing you right now. We have no bridge. This bridge has got a hole in it. How are we going to get a Cisco truck, a fuel truck, tourists over here? And he cut me off and he said, I believe that my insurance company wouldn't appreciate you being here anymore. You need to leave."
Wow.
So that's when I took off on the boat. And the whole way home, I'm sitting here thinking, man, no remorse. And I'm trying to think of what happened that night, because I don't think we talked about it yet. But at some point, Bridgette, who was one of the survivors, yelled out Todd, tell everyone I'm all right. And we looked, and there's Bridgette, and it's like, Jesus, there's already somebody we know in the water. We know that there's cars and stuff, but here's somebody that we don't. And she just says, tell everybody I'm all right. And that's just kind of hit home. So on the way home, I'm trying to reflect on what did I see, what happened, and Bridgette's in the water. There's 2 or 3 other cars that we don't know what's going on. We don't have a bridge. I'm thinking, God, I hope that deckhand's wish comes true and they all go to jail.
Yeah.
And it's just, so anyhow, all this, and I pull into the pier, and when I pull into the pier, I get bombarded by the people that work there. You can make $50 a person taking people across the bridge because they can't get across. And it's just like, God, no remorse here, no remorse there. It was an unbelievable thing.
That the human compassion part was just gone.
It's gone.
Wow.
And on a different note, a family the next day, when they're trying to have a town meeting, is trying to figure out what to do. This isn't an everyday event. Trying to figure out what to do. The city of Sal Padre. This family stands up in the middle of the meeting and says, we want free jet skis, we want free wave runners, we want free food, free hotel room, and somebody's going to compensate our vehicle while it's over here.
Wow.
Which goes back to me saying, if that storm took a different path, could you imagine that?
That would have been.
If there was a bunch of tourists stuck here?
Jeez, that would have been horrific. What else do you remember from that night?
Well, that's. I remember just how black and dark it was, but he pretty much described everything about it. It's just it's unbelievable what you're witnessing, what you're seeing. You're in shock just seeing this massive gaping hole up there. After where Todd's story ends, mine kind of begins the next morning, which I got some sleep when he dropped me off. But at 10 o'clock in the morning, Dale Stockton, Jones, his son Russell Stockton, they had the boat outside the Port Isabel in the causeway there. They called me up and said the marriage is panicked. All the tourists need to go off the island right then and there. So I took the boat Fishtails, which is a double-deck boat, holds 118 people, went into Sea Ranch, their fuel docks there, and started taking people right then and there. By my second run, I backed in as a double-deck boat. I can see over the roof of the Murphy's office, down in the parking lot, and off to the right, to which there's a line probably 2 to 4 foot wide, all the way across the street into Schlitterbahn with people waiting to go get off the boat, get off the island. And I think in 12 hours I hauled a count of like a little over 8,000 people.
Wow, that is insane. Jeez. So there was a ton of people on the island that day.
I was, getting stories of people who've they're here from North Carolina with a brand new car, having made their first payment, to leave it behind.
That is insane. Yeah, it's just crazy. I mean, the island is something that we hold so dear, and we'd never think that something of that magnitude can happen. Take me back to the barge boat, where I'm not familiar with boating. Obviously, you guys are. But what do you think that since they had 4 barges that day, it had a factor?
Oh, for sure. It was like double, and it was 4. I was thinking it was 3. I couldn't remember. I knew it was longer than normal. For sure.
Yeah, it was 4.
But yeah, so you got the one turn, and from what I was picking up on that night, and you might know if you've read the actual documentation, but what I was picking up on was the guy that went through, the second captain, had never been through there before, and the rest of the crew was asleep.
Yeah.
So they put him, it's really the only right turn that you take to go through the causeway. And the fact that the lights on the bridge were out has nothing to do with that. That's for cars. There's still navigation lights. You're going by radar. You got channel markers. So I think he must have saw that he was getting pushed over at some point with that tide and that current. And instead of powering into it, like if you ever seen him pull into the slip at Jim's Pier in the Danny Beat when the current's ripping, he's coming in 100 miles an hour to keep that thing going into the current. And if you back off at any point, you're done. It's over. You're going to get pushed away. It's not going to work. So he obviously threw it in reverse, and from what I understand, was in reverse, and slid in.
There's too much weight he was pushing. He couldn't stop it on time. I talked to a previous captain that ran that particular boat years before, and he said the boat was grossly underpowered for for the load that he had.
What's interesting about that is I believe it was Captain Fowler that was driving the boat, the barge boat. He was saying that it was not seaworthy. It was not a seaworthy vessel.
Really?
Could you tell anything about that?
No, just looked like a barge. We were on the outside
Wow,
until I
interesting.
went up into the inside. But
So Captain Steve Ellis was saying that when he pulled up, he saw those guys on the barge like just drinking coffee, like they didn't care. Do you believe that? Like from what you experienced?
they were probably drinking a lot of coffee
Yeah.
and a lot of water.
They knew it was coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, geez. So from the court document, they said that he hadn't had enough rest either that day. So I guess they go on shifts, and he was not rested enough for that.
I don't know, because they came out of Brownsville only.
Yeah, I can't answer that one, but I'd heard that he was a 25-year veteran, but he'd never been here, and the captain that's done this route was asleep.
Wow.
So it wasn't his shift. I don't know if it was his shift or not, but
Yeah, he was the long-haired guy.
yeah.
So when you talk about the riptide being horrible, explain that, because I mean, me not knowing anything about that, kind of paint a picture for our viewers and for me.
Well, you can tell them.
If it's our tides here aren't as strong as they are on the East Coast and West Coast, but when you get a wind factoring in with them too, it makes me stronger, and it's one more thing to.
And the
that
storm
hinders your-
throws a lot of water this way, so when the surf comes up and the water table comes up, and you have extra water and the tide's flowing in real strong, it's a lot different than a normal tide.
Wow. Talk about the water conditions. Like obviously, the riptide's one thing, but navigating on top of the water, what was that like that night?
I really didn't have a problem with it.
No.
There weren't too many boats yet on the scene. I mean, there were.
My boat was
After
a
about an hour.
20-foot inboard, and I had lights around the top. We had spotlights. At that time, I was fishing the end of the jetties a lot in the dark, so being out at the end of the jetties was just a normal thing. So I didn't even really notice that. That's why I kind of wish if we would have got there a little earlier, I could have helped them out while they were taking these people and doing things. It probably would have been a lot easier for us because I had 3 captains on board, and we probably could have controlled, like he was saying, he had 7 people on there, and people were walking all over the place and stuff. It might have been a little easier for us.
Interesting. Yeah, those events that transpired that night obviously hurt a lot of families, and I think even the 3 survivors, we kind of tried to reach out to them, and they kind of just denied. They didn't want to come out yet.
Was Bridgette one?
Yeah, well, actually, a friend requested her husband on Facebook, and I kind of didn't want to go in for the ask yet. I kind of just wanted to show what we're doing. That way they can get familiar with it, because, I mean, I believe that they'll come on when they feel like coming on.
I talked to Bridgette afterwards, and that's her story. I'm not going to tell her story whatsoever. I will say one thing that's kind of important that struck home with me, that she told me that she grew up in a flood zone in Houston, and her dad told her, if you get the option, get the roll down windows, and she had just bought that truck.
Wow.
She had just bought that truck, and she got roll down windows, and she said that all came back to her, and it wasn't a panic thing. Roll the window down,
That's what
because
saved her
that's
life.
what she was told.
Wow.
And it really does hit home. And I don't even know now if you have the option. Do you get the GPS and the backup lights and the roll down window? I don't even know if they have that anymore.
Jeez. Let me ask you this. Do you think that an event like that can happen again?
Sure.
It can.
They put dolphins, they got better dolphins on the outside. But I don't know, does it have to be a barge?
to take it out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if
Well, a plane tried a couple of years before that.
Yeah.
Wow.
They didn't try, but they flew under it, and the wide span made it the first time under, went through a skinnier span the second time. They didn't make it.
Wow.
No survivors on that one.
Jeez. Let me ask you this. Since everything's happened and we're discovering all this stuff 20 years later, how does it make you all feel individually about what we're doing to uncover this story?
I think it's good. This is a 20-year anniversary.
Yep.
I think it's good to talk about it. keep it out there so people remember. I mean, 9/11 was a huge thing, and this got kind of swept under the rug, but I think they need to talk about it on the island.
How about you?
I totally agree.
Everybody keeps saying that they don't understand why this isn't the island's 9/11. How does that make you all feel?
I guess it kind of is. You know, that week I was losing trips because nobody could fly, and then I would have had a trip from McAllen, except for I think I canceled because of the weather, the storm. But it was just the whole time frame, the whole time period. I think everybody's just kind of stunned. And personally, I think there should be another bridge anyhow.
Yeah, that's what we keep hearing, that there were talks and getting another bridge. And what happened with that? You have any information?
You hear about it for probably 6 months, and then it just kind of goes away. Every now and then, a couple of years go by, I'll start talking about it again, and it just fades away.
What do you think it is that just hasn't been done?
I hear money.
Money.
It would be the longest bridge in Texas, wouldn't it, if they did it? But interesting, during that time, during the ferry service, we had a tropical storm that was to turn into a hurricane. It was Roxanne. Would come at us and do a circle. You know, everyone start packing up, ready to leave, and do a circle, and then leave. We'd be out of the path again, then it'd turn around and come right at us again. So probably 3 different times we thought we were going to be getting off the island.
That's the busiest hurricane time of the year, September, basically.
Yeah.
One of the things that I heard, and I don't know if this is just, maybe I'm not informed enough, but the reason that there aren't other bridges is because like Port Isabel and other cities like that, they have so much businesses that are there. If they were to build another bridge coming another way, it would just completely take away the structure, the economic growth of that. What do you all think about that?
I don't know. When the bridge is backed up, it goes all the way through Port Isabel.
And then they don't get any business
I
in.
don't see anybody getting out of their cars, which it hasn't been that bad in years.
Everybody's going to use Walmart. Everyone's going to use H-E-B. It's not going to go away if there's a second bridge.
Yeah.
If anything, I think it'll make Port Isabel even more money because you can get there. People that want to go there, instead of being stuck in traffic coming to the island, they'll be doing more business.
I think it would be beneficial to the valley to be able to come around from the other side and not have to come down through here. But anything would help.
Yeah. One of the things that's interesting is we talked to Texas Observer, which is out of Austin, and they wanted a deeper story, and we're digging, and Celeste is amazing at this stuff. She found out that the reason why the gag order, or mostly the reason why the gag order is there, is because it involves the state of Texas and Cameron County. Obviously, we're not interested in covering that stuff, but I think it is important to say that this was a huge thing, and after that whole thing, the state of Texas. So what happened was groundwater towing. They put in that document, the first one at 3:45 that day, and they were suing the state of Texas. So what happens is you can't sue the state of Texas. They have immunity, right, with the 11th Amendment. So what happened is they ended up suing Brown Ridge Towing for $10 million because they said they needed an emergency repair at the bridge that was going to cost $7 million. Did you all ever hear anything about state of Texas or Cameron County, any of that
I
stuff?
just remember that class action lawsuit coming around.
That's all I remember. And they could only get the value of the tug. That's what they couldn't go after more money. I never understood why they couldn't. But it was only the value of the tug is what they could issue to the families.
Wow. What did you hear?
I didn't really hear anything other than there was a class action lawsuit that anybody on the island could get in, but I never got involved with it.
What do you think about that? Because I did look at some of the court documents, and there was a lot of businesses that were under. And I understand that a lot of people didn't have work, a lot of people suffered, their business was closed, they didn't have anything coming in. What do you think about that? Like with the people that just jumped on just for it?
It's typical.
Yeah.
Somebody trying to make a buck. I don't know. I don't remember that part of it that much.
Yeah, there was interesting because there was so many lawyers in that lawsuit. It was insane.
I'm sure.
There was tons of them.
I mean, life changed for us. You know, if you didn't have a car on the other side, you really basically couldn't do anything. I got real busy having a small boat. Like a roommate of mine had to get to college. She had to run back and forth to school, and having a boat was just a huge bonus. And I remember, you want to go bird hunting. Well, you take the shotguns, you throw them in the boat, and then you run across and you get in a car on the other side and come back, and it was a surreal time.
How long was the bridge out?
3 months.
Yeah, I think it opened up November 22nd, I think.
What was life like during that whole time for people that were living here?
That's what I'm saying. If you had a boat, you're a king. If you didn't, you're dependent. And once they got that ferry up and going, it was a whole different ball game. How long did that take?
The next day, between the hospitality docks, dolphin docks, and Murphy's, maybe Daniel Bryant, they all ran a free service.
Okay.
The first 2-3 days, and then Texas compensated for that later on. But Texas also gave him a contract.
How long on the car ferry?
Car ferries were 2 weeks afterwards. Two of them came out of Aransas, and about the third week, one came out of Alabama, and the other one came out of the Carolinas. They could haul semis.
Wow.
So, but think about a month with no garbage pickup.
Wow.
I mean, it was pretty tall. The garbage on everyone's street. You can tell who was being a resident and who wasn't, just by the garbage out in front.
Wow, that is crazy. Before we finish off the podcast, I'd just like to thank you all very much, especially you guys. Thank you for sharing your story. If you like what we're doing, make sure you hit that subscribe button. But before we finish out the podcast, is there anything else you guys want to share that maybe you haven't?
No, I think I'd say what I wanted to say. I just wanted people to know what was going on in that barge.
Yeah.
It didn't really seem like they were real remorseful at all.
All right, guys. Well, thank you all very much. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. You get notified every single time we upload a video. We're still looking for help to share this story and to tell the story from people, actual credible people that were on the water or had any insight from that night, even the people that were on top of the bridge that helped stop the traffic from going in. So we need your help. Help us tell the story. Thanks, guys.
The Joshua Moroles Podcast.